How's it going, everybody? It's these hands draw, and we're gonna just sketch away at Joaquin Sorolla self-portrait. And now, the best quality about his portraits is actually his painterly brushstrokes, but I'm just here to study some values. And the nice thing about his brushstrokes is that it kind of gives me a bit of a sense of direction as well, which helps. I'll put the name of the painting in the description so you guys can find it. I'm using the charcoal pencil today. You can see everything there. Oh, there we go. Everything you need. They're really nice to work with. All you need is a knife to sharpen them and some sandpaper. So I'll just get drawing here. Just getting the big ideas, everything. Nice thing about actually this painting is like such a, his like brush strokes are quite broad, so I feel like it's very easy to find the separation of light and dark. Maybe I'm getting a bit too detailed here. Hang on, let's find the overall shape before I start separating all that. When I make these lines, see this one, like angle to angle here? It's just it's kind of, it's not 100% accurate. I'm just trying to think of the distance, or the angle from nostril to corner of like that eye socket there that we can see where it starts to turn in. And making it the best guess I can make to try to get there. You can see that shadow of the cheek, so that helps us measure as well. You really, when you see paintings like this that are clearly painted from life, it's so much more useful than painting from a photograph. I nearly, like every time I do these videos, I look for a reference to work from, but I always end up going back to a painting. So look at a photograph, and the darks are too darks, and then the head position isn't great for the light that they used, or there's another thing or something else. But they don't agree with me anyway. But you find a painting and that's clearly done from life, and there's just so much more to it that you can study. So I highly, highly recommend that. I got the corner of the eye socket there. Where is it going to the ear? He's a bit higher up, somewhere around here, I think. Maybe here, where these two intersect. I always kind of draw in straight lines. Now sometimes when I'm drawing for myself, I'll draw some curvy and wavy lines just to play around with. But straight lines are a bit more easier to, I suppose, measure distance and really clearly see where you're going with it. And it's easier to fix, I think, as well. Easier to know where the relation of everything is. Notice also I will change my hand position with the charcoal a lot. So I'll either hold it like this, or some other way, I'm sure. It kind of just depends on the angle of the mark I want to approach it at. Usually if I'm drawing bigger as well, I'll nearly always hold it like this, because if you're extending your arm fully out, it's a bit easier. I actually much prefer drawing bigger than smaller. But the problem with paper is just storing it, putting it somewhere, safely. And then there's finding the paper you like is also a hard one for the medium you're using. But you never really, I never find myself sticking to the same paper or same medium for a long time. I find myself switching between them, and maybe between the ones I like, but I think there's always a certain point where you just want to push yourself back to that medium you were thinking about before. Like you learn something new, so you want to see what you can apply, or see what new things you can actually learn. Where are we going? He's got a great hat in his painting. When you can actually see when you guys look up the painting, you can really see the thick paint he uses in the lighter areas. It's very visible in the hat. Really lovely looking. And where is his collar? That's his. Okay, I think that's all we need for this, and then we can start really separating the lights and darks a little bit. I don't need to do too much. I think I've gotten a good bit of them now. It's about trying to get the shapes of them kind of correct as you can get. You don't have to go too crazy, but for the first go. I think Joaquin Sorolla is probably one of my favorite painters. I'm really I find myself drawn to like that alla prima wet and wet bold brushstroke style or way of working, and there's something so what's the word, like lively about it because of the brushstrokes, because like there's also probably some mistakes in there that the painter would see but we don't. I don't really like. Well, it's not I don't like. I just prefer something that's a bit raw and not unorganized, but you know, not perfectly done. I suppose is the way to describe it. Okay, I think I've got my lights and my darks separated enough here. I'll just start throwing in my marks. Um, so first of all, I'll throw in my marks, but I think I'll keep them all consistently going the same way in the darks to keep kind of get that flat turn. Okay, now we have a clear shape, something going on. Might need to use the eraser later to clear some of them up, but they look pretty okay at the moment. Next, I'm going to getting those darker darks. I have this um, nearly like block in like you would with paint, but now I'm gonna define some shapes and I'll use like directional marks to define the darker areas a bit more. Just to define them and find out where they are. There's obviously more like there's subtler values going on, but it's better just to get the overall image first, and then you can play around with that later if you want. Okay, I think I'll go in. I'll just make some value over the lights as well to play with. Maybe I'll do actually throughout the whole page, so I have a little bit more in the background as well. Okay, that's enough, I think, to play with. Let's shorten it a little bit more. Alright, let's see what we can do. Now that we have actually the lights that are filled in, you can kind of see maybe I could push more in the darks, right? But let's use the eraser to try to get those big bits of light back. Now, you might not be able to get everything back because, depending on the paper, your charcoal might stain, might never go back to pure white, but I think you can still work with what you got. Now you can use your eraser as a drawing tool. Play around with shape. Just a putty eraser, you can play around with the shape and like the pressure you're putting down. You can get completely different effects. You're in control of the charcoal here. And even sometimes your eraser being a bit dirty is kind of nice. The way it's not actually taking everything. Wait, where'd my pencil go? Oh yeah. I think I'm gonna go work back into the darks again just a little bit. Just to maybe define them again, because I think we lost them a little bit. But that is no problem. It's kind of good to get an opportunity to draw them again. Maybe you didn't like... you won't see everything correctly the first time around. If you're drawing them, where each element you put down the page, you just see a little bit more, right? It's all relative to each other. Value, color, the temperatures and stuff. It only has meaning depending on what's next to it, I'm definitely never gonna get the quality with the charcoal that I see in this painting, but it's a fine study to do. You can kind of, I feel like I'm appreciating the actual marks he's putting down, and you can kind of see subtle directions or like tiny value changes that really show the form that he sees. I feel like there's actually a lot more going on in the darks than we see in the lights. Like, there's maybe in this painting, there's only like, especially in the head, there's maybe 2 values in the lights, but it's kind of like reflected light in the darks here. And reflected light is still not as bright as the light, so I just have to be aware of that. Might not be able to get that completely because, you know, it'll take a while. Definitely, maybe I've just drawn an older man instead of Joaquin Sorolla, like he has in his portrait, but hey, we tried. We got a bit of drawing done today, so that is always very good. I like the way he painted the eyes. Actually, there's no like strong highlight. It's just, you know, the overall contrast in the eye socket is what leads you there. Doesn't always have to have a big highlight in the eye, right? I think I might leave it there. Maybe. I really like looking at this painting. It's you know, it's very. It doesn't seem. It's just not overworked. You know, there's a really lovely quality about it. It's such just, you know, from drawing it. Well, I haven't drawn it like accurately or whatever, you know. But I really see the idea of just big blocks of value next to each other. He's just done that with paint. You know what? I will actually. I will. I will leave it there. Yes. I'll be at this all day. Okay. Thank you very much for watching, everybody, and I will see you in the next video. Take care.